Around 150 years ago, the British naturalist Charles Darwin proposed a theoretical idea he had arrived at, observations he had made on essentially. This theory consists of scenarios, assumptions, and guesswork that Darwin had in imagination. Evolutionary proposed that inanimate substance combine the result of chance and rise to the living cell. According to the myth, which scientific findings whatsoever, slowly transformed itself over generations into other again as the incidental. In other words, it's supposed to be evolved. According to the erroneous concept of evolution, all forms of life on Earth to be as a result of this fictitious process. However, since the scientific knowledge at a very primitive level, the extent to which Darwin's was not yet fully clear. It was in such a climate as this that from certain circles, material circles in particular, to the theory of evolution, since it declared that it offered a scientific basis for their own atheistic and materialistic worldview. From Darwin's day to this, they have provided all forms of support in order to keep the theory alive. They have conducted study after study and experiment after experiment of finding some evidence that might support evolution. Yet every study they have conducted and every evidence they have obtained out to be refuted rather than confirmed. Modern science and technology, increasingly rapid advances since the beginning of the 20th century, there is no scientific basis of evolution. Branches of science consist of microbiology, biomathematics, cell biology, biochemistry, genetics, anatomy, anthropology, produced countless proofs demolishing the theory of evolution. But the most important finding of the theory of evolution has been the fossil record. Because countless fossils offer inescapable proof that living species on Earth slightest change and did not develop other. When the fossil record is examined, living things today are seen to be exactly the same as they were hundreds of millions of years ago. In other words, they never underwent evolution. The very earliest periods had exactly the specific superior characteristics their counterparts do today. Present. This demonstrates the following truth. Into the imaginary processes of the theory of evolution. Moment. Creation has once the traces of flaw left over from. In this film, you will obtain a closer acquaintance with various fossils dating back millions of years and can witness how they silently cry out to blind eyes and deaf ears. We are here. We did not come into existence by chance, but were created. And we were exactly millions ago. Remains or traces ago. Recent fossils are only thousands of years old. There are others that belong to life forms that existed in hundreds of millions of years ago. Fossils which have survived in the Earth's strata right down to the present day. Information regarding the organism since life. They provide concrete as to what species which came in shapes and sizes, from entire right microscopic traces. In order for the body of a recently dead animal from being immediately covered in soil, mud, or sand. Over the months that follow, new layers of spot where the dead. These protects the organic matter from effects of bacteria. Sediment are laid down, one atop the other, and within a few hundred years, once living thing is now several meters seabed. Structures such as an animal's bones, shells, gradually begin to undergo chemical degradation. Subterranean waters begin decaying tissues, and these water tissues. These materials that replace the chemicals in the tissues are the building blocks of rocks such as calcite, pyrite, silicate, iron, and resistant erosion. Thus, These produce an exact stone copy of the structure in the The fossil remains exactly in size as opposed to in scientific terminology. The process known as permineration. There are also a few other processes that can result in mineralization. All the original elements apart from carbon disappear in the tissues of the carbonization process. All that the original structure is then a copy consisting entirely of carbon. By now, we have millions of fossil specimens collected from the world and catalogued in the museum of various countries. All these fossil specimens reveal one very significant fact. Things on the Earth have maintained the same shape, structure, the moment they were first. Many life forms that existed in even the earliest have come down to the present day without showing even the slightest change. There is no difference between these living things that existed hundreds of millions of years ago and living. For example, present grasshoppers are in all respects the same grasshoppers that lived 120 million years ago. Lizards million years ago. Short, things are exactly the same way as they were. film, we have obtained local information about fossils. We have seen what the fossil record heads the lines that demolish the probably know. The theory of evolution claims that living things acquired their present perfect complex structure in a process lasting years. Primitive structure advanced. The truth is very clever, because fossil records die. You can see very clearly and distinctly that the life forms that existed millions of years ago now seeing, for example, were found in the Wyoming in the USA. It dates back 50 million years. Let's now examine this fossil in a little more detail. It's a herring. We can examine it from close up, identical to herring. For instance, section to breathe beneath its gills be seen clearly. Let us take it even. You can see clearly the little stones of are crystal clear. Next to it is another fossil, to another herring, and like the other herring, exactly the same descendants living together. Another fossil discovered. This one is a crocodile that dates back to the Cretaceous period. Paleontologists have established this fossil is fully, in other words, a crocodile 100 million years ago with exact features as crocodiles.
Bir bakalım.
Holding fossil 55 million that lived during the Cretaceous period. As you can clearly see, the fossil belongs to a baby shark. Same features as baby more closely at its general appearance, its head structure, fins and tail structure, and even its skeletal structure can all be seen. The fossil once again shows us the fact that all living things have the same perfect form of years ago as they do today. I now have another in my hand. I will share information about it. This fossil belongs to a lizard which was a paleontologist in the Huixia Formation. Research has determined that this bird lived 2 billion years. 100 million years ago, this was alive, with an internal system. Now have a closer look at this animal. It has been perfectly preserved, with the finest detail. Its head structure, for example, full neck bones that attach to the body. There are so many details to see. Right, the joints on those that join one to the other, then right down to the infection tail. This is an excellent fossil. Details exceptionally well preserved, right to the present. Tells the adherents, no, evolution never took place at any time in the past. Fossil that refutes the theory of evolution. And paleontologists 46 million years. And this article to its tail legs, for example, preserved. Answers, of course, have also survived in a very clear and perfect form. I would not a very small but very significant light form. This fossil belongs to the trilobite, paleo in France. It is around 390 million years. Trilobites are just one of the species that completely dash the expectations. As you may know, these animals came into in the so-called Cambrian explosion that took place some 550 million years ago. New life forms in the fossil record. Point, and one that is that these creatures had no known ancestors. This fact is now admitted by even evolutionist scientists. These trilobites and all other life forms that existed during the period when they were alive were created in a single moment by our Lord God, with no ancestors behind them. One of the main features of trilobites that baffles is their compound trilobites' eye of hundreds of minute lens system. This eye structure to the structure is alive. Spiders, bees, and flies. Complex subtle creature that existed some 500 million more than to evolution, right? Because no such complex life ever existed during. This goes to show that no evolutionary process behind them. This is a fossilized tiger skull. And around years old. It has also been perfectly preserved, which it used to capture prey. This skull possesses exactly the same as do the skulls of tigers. Fossil Santana Formation in the Araripe region of Brazil. Its age has been put at 110 million years. There is no difference so identical to scorpions alive. Looking at the head of a shrimp, old. Again, it is clear that there is structure and all its organs and specimens when we see that it is identical to modern-day its head, tail structure, all have come down unchanged to its descendants. I would like to introduce you to a juvenile turtle from Asia, discovered in China. It has been established to have Jurassic. Of this turtle is 100 specimens alive. Its head structure, legs, and shell encasing its body. These reptiles millions of years. Old leaf of Colorado and with all its details just as if it were a photo. Just one of the evidence that have come down to the present day with their same have never on any structure. Can fossil a member of fossil Frankfurt region of Germany. It has been assumed it lived in epoch around 50 million years ago. When this fossil examined, we to those living today, and how they have undergone no changes and no supposed process. Fossils. One fish both lived at the same time. Fossils were in Wyoming as being 50 years old. Another important feature of different fossils, of course, is that with all structures, These species are identical to specimens alive today. There is no difference between head, eyes, fins, bone structure, tail, identical to those of their present-day counterparts. I am now holding a fossil from a somewhat younger stratum. This particular creature, known as the pipefish, lived 3 million years ago and was discovered in Italy. This Miocene epoch, yet it has characteristics as contemporary pipefish. Another fossil living species has come down to the present day, unaltered. One of the environments living things such as insects and even some resins and ooze from tree bark. Over time, these harden and turn into transparent amber, the organism entirely unchanged. Since totally cut off the surrounding atmosphere, survive in a near over right down to the present. Creatures fossilized. There exists no difference between living of years ago and were preserved in amber and their present. Fossil field of research for a great many scientists. For example, Ponar, both have carried out highly detailed studies of fossils preserved in amber in various, particularly for the amber, their hundreds between years of many living things of carrying food back to the nest in a state of defense, attempting to camouflage themselves or defend their young, or releasing chemical substances in order to neutralize predators, and now displayed in amber. These one very significant fact. Lived for millions of years. In other words, they never underwent a tens of thousands of fossils preserved in amber that since the very earliest times, term always frogs have always been frogs, and grasshoppers and moths have always been moths, and that none of them has ever changed. As you know, the theory of evolution maintains the Earth must entirely be the primitive life forms. Yet, tell us the exact opposite. Throughout the course of this of millions before our eyes today, contrary to what evolutionists claim, they fossils document the fact that even existed living things with exceptionally features, highly developed complex structures. When the evidence preserved in the fossil record is examined in detail, we can see creatures whose body structures, organs, and right down. This fact, of course, completely myths and scenarios of evolution. Because what it means is that the course of millions of years, from the primitive to the most advanced, ever actually of evolution. Over the all living things descended from one another by means of ages. Yet if this claim of evolution were true, then flawed immediate forms representing such an imaginary process must once have, for example, have existed having acquired certain reptilian characteristics should have. Furthermore, there must have been millions, even billions more of these forms extinct species, and encountered plentiful fossils of these intermediate forms in rock straight over the world. The world should have fossils of half-fish, half-reptile, half-winged, earless, one-eyed forms, deficient in some way. Darwin, who was well aware of this fact, said in his book, The Origin of Species, "Theory be true, numberless intermediate varieties linking most closely consequently remains." When we look at the fossil record, we see no intermediate forms at all. On the contrary, we encounter fully formed extinct are no different from those living today. Darwin was also fossil. In fact, he even predicted the stumbling. He then wrote the chapter titled "In the Origin of Species." Why do we not everywhere see innumerable transitional forms? But, as by this theory innumerable transitional forms must have existed, why do we not find them embedded in countless numbers in the crust of the earth? Why then is not every geological formation and every stratum full of such intermediate links? Feel any such finely graduated organic chain, and this perhaps is the most obvious and Darwin's theory become a reality. For now, digging through the Earth's geologic strata, but have not encountered a single to their own calculations be trillions. Deception by evolutionists such as transition among species, intermediate, been consigned to the realm of myth by faced with Darwin's only explanation was that the fossil record of his time was insufficient. In putting forward his theory, Darwin claimed that living species evolved from one another. Also, of intermediate forms will be found. That these would be the fact that today's fossil record is sufficiently rich to completely establish Darwin. Between Darwin's time and the present day, some 100 million fossils, 1,000 species by scientists have been collected. Yet there is not one single form among them. Today, 99% of fossils in the strata in unexamined. Total absence of any such transitional fossils among them, it is that these emerge, remaining 1%. Nonetheless, that intermediate life form found is evolutionist wishful thinking. University of Glasgow admitted it. In some ways, to be composed mainly of gaps. Attempt to answer the question of how emerged and They fossils going back hundreds of millions of years manner to that question. Life and the universe itself are not the work of blind chance. Were created Earth that in all living things complete manner, ordinary forerunners. Fossils in the Cambrian period, back some 6 years, once again prove living species of suddenly ancestors. They were created. The fossil record is not sufficiently rich for us to understand the origin. It shows us that in the past, did living things ever under any to the more on the species appeared suddenly on Earth. Complex structure and features as its counterparts today. Evolutionists who have been digging up all the Earth's straight, finding evidence for their theory have in fact proof false, and instead that creation is an indisputed fact. Carry reports 1-year-old mosquito fossil discovered. 30 million. Readers of such reports may think that there is something special about such events, that such fossils are discovered. A large part of the Earth's is full of fossilized specimens of life forms that ago. A great many unearthed and placed under protection museums today. Hundreds of spiders, ants, flies, and thousands of years of a great, some extinct and others not, are stored away in museums. Papers, scientific journals, forums, discussion panels, them. And why not? Because every fossil discovered by itself constitutes a fresh piece of evidence against the theory of every fossil is sufficiently pursued. Darwinists have dedicated their lives. For the same reason, some evolutionists are concealed. Even today, evolutionists still resort to the same methods of covering that their theory. Take an example. Are quiet concealed in museums were made available for public examination, clearly emerged. Yet most scientists lack the courage to take such a step because it would. But any theory, scientific evidence to establish its fraud and deception, declared its own bankruptcy. Aware that all the scientific evidence collected shows that nothing more than living fossils living today are the creator of all things millions of years ago, and Darwinists have been terrified that this manifest truth would, but this clear plain for all to see, and all Darwinists' endeavors have been in vain. Falsehood has been eradicated by the truth, and Lord of all the worlds again revealed his might. He did not create heaven and earth and everything game. Desired to have someone would have derived. We did not. Falsehood, and it cuts right through it, and it vanishes clean away. Woe without end for you, for what you portray.